Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of Legally Brum. Today we're interviewing Paul McConnell from the University of Birmingham. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you. Hello.
So could you just tell us a little bit about yourself? What do you do at the University of Birmingham?
Of course. Well, I teach all the usual range of subjects, everything from land law to employment law. But the particular role that I have, which I think is relevant to this discussion, is I'm the Director of Careers and Employability in the Law School, which means that I've got responsibility for making sure all of our 1,000+ University of Birmingham law students are fully aware of the legal career options available to them.
Can you tell us a bit about your route into law and what made you go into lecturing rather than, continuing with practicing?
Of course, well, initially it was quite a conventional route. I was doing a law degree, actually at the University of Leicester, and I think like a lot of students, made a natural progression from a law degree to doing a training contract, which was actually at a firm in Birmingham. It was at Squire Patton Boggs.
Oh, okay.
I was there for a while, went down to London, and I thoroughly enjoyed the training contract. Actually, it was a really good experience. I qualified and worked as a solicitor for a couple of years, but I'd always had an interest in education, and I'd always felt that might be where I'd end up in the future. So after a few years of legal practice, although I'd enjoyed it, I made a decision to go into teaching and applied for a job teaching on the LPC. Ended up at what's now the University of Law, and was there for over 10 years, in fact, for the last few years as the head of the LPC at University of Law in Birmingham. And now for the last couple of years I've been working at more academic universities, in particular the University of Birmingham.
So we're going to focus now on the questions that many students have, whilst at university or even at A-level at college. Do you think A-level grades matter when it comes to applying for training contracts and getting into law firms?
A-level results will undoubtedly have an impact. I think what's important is that every student does the best they can to achieve the highest possible grades in their A-levels, as it impacts both in terms of university choice and final career. Thinking about universities, first of all, there's obviously different entry levels in terms of A-levels for each university, and those tend to reflect the reputation of a university and the employability of its graduates. So if you can aim for a university that asks for higher entry grades, that's likely to get your future legal career off to a better start. Moving on to what employers look for, it's certainly true to say that the top and most in-demand firms will be asking for high A-level grades, typically 3As or AAB at A-level. And if that's what you're aspiring towards, therefore A-level grades that are high will be very important. Having said that, I know plenty of students with lower A-level grades who have gone on to have successful legal careers, but it's just important to recognise that the road towards that might be a bit longer, and there might not be as many options available. Certainly certain firms might not be options with lower A-level grades.
Is there a way that you think that people with lower A-level grades could maybe enhance their applications? Is there any advice that you could give them to maybe broaden their horizons in terms of applying for firms?
I think there's certainly many things that students with low grades can do, though. There's increasingly diverse paths into the legal profession. It's not just about getting a training contract and using that to qualify as a solicitor. For example, students can go down the SILEX route, where you're working and studying at the same time to achieve the solicitor qualification. Also, increasingly firms are looking at legal apprenticeships. So it's not just about the traditional A-level route into law, and I think it's just a case really of researching, becoming aware of the options and looking at what would fit best for your own particular qualification profile and your interests and aspirations.
Does it matter what electives you do at undergraduate level or on the LPC, especially if you don't have a training contract?
Starting off with the law degree, first of all, I wouldn't say that option choices are that important. The main thing is to do something that you're interested in and in which you'll think you'll perform well. Having said that, also it is good if you can choose options which link to the type of law firm you think you might want to work at. So for example, if you think you want to be a corporate commercial lawyer, if you only did options like family law or criminology, it doesn't really send out a strong message to employers that you're genuinely interested in commercial law, and it would have been better to maybe have a mix of options with some that are commercially focused. At LPC level, I think the picture changes completely, and you should definitely pick options which really fit with the type of firm you're applying to. I think it will make a firm very suspicious if a student has done a very random mix of subjects, for example mixing, let's say, banking with criminal law, and there's no firms that really do that combination of practice areas. So at LPC level, I'd certainly think carefully about what you're choosing, look at what different firms recommend as preferred elective choices, and also speak to the LPC provider's career service about that if you're unsure.
I remember when I was at university and hearing that, oh, first year doesn't count, it's fine, you know, you can go straight into second year, it's only second and third year that count, that's what the law firms will look at. I personally have realised that that's not the case when I was applying for training contracts. What's your opinion on that? Do you think first year counts?
The 40%.
I think it's a huge myth that the first year of a law degree doesn't count, and I'd ignore anyone that tells you otherwise. I think there's lots of students on less vocationally orientated courses for whom the first year isn't that important. The main priority is just to pass it and get that 40% in each module. But for a law student that gets a scrape through on the first year of their law degree, it will significantly impact on their career options for the next couple of years. The firms that students will be applying to during a law degree will be asking typically for a strong profile even in the first year, and be looking to see largely 2-1 or above performance across first year modules. That's the experience I have all of the time speaking to employers. When they're looking at second and third year students, they want those students that have good performance earlier in the degree to show a consistent academic approach and to demonstrate that that student has worked hard at all stages, not just applying their effort in the final year of the programme.
So how can students demonstrate the skills they have when they're at university looking for VAC schemes and training contracts, especially if they don't have the experience within the legal sector?
I think it's really important for students to think about skills when they're applying for legal employment. The questions on application forms are very much geared towards students demonstrating skills that are important for the legal profession, such as communication skills or teamwork, for example. What's therefore important is to think about how, as a student, you've been able to develop and show those skills outside of your studies. So when you're applying for a firm and filling in the application forms, don't give lots of examples just about your studies. It's important to think wider into your life and how what you do shows those skills. An example that often students overlook is the importance of part-time employment. Many students have, for example, jobs in retail or admin, and those can be great for showing all sorts of skills. Often students worry they've not got that much legal work experience, and that doesn't matter too much. For example, if you've got a Saturday job, you're working as part of a team, you're being organised, you're fitting it around your studies, you're prioritising, you're communicating with customers and colleagues, and there's a lot you can say about that when you're trying to show a legal employer that you have the right skills to be a good trainee solicitor. It's not just paid employment, there's many other things you could be involved in as well. For example, at universities there's always a good range of clubs and societies, maybe opportunities to get involved in some charity or community work, and all of those things will show that you've got some get up and go, you've got commitment, and that you've got skills that are important to work successfully as a lawyer.
What do you think the biggest concern is that you think students have when deciding what type of law firm to apply to, and how they make that decision? How do they go from a big list of law firms, there's so many in Birmingham, to narrowing it down to like a top 10?
I think it's a really difficult decision for students to decide what law firms to apply to, and there's a couple of decisions students need to go through to get to that point. I think the starting point is to decide what area of law they might be interested in, and I mean that in a broad sense, that the split typically is between commercial areas of law and those that involve acting for private clients, for example things like personal injury, employment law, family law. I think all of us have a natural inclination towards one or other of those areas, but I can completely see that it's difficult as a law student studying a subject academically to know really what might be best for you in legal practice. Therefore, if you can get any work experience to see what it's like, for example, to be a commercially focused lawyer or a lawyer acting for private clients, that might help you to see what it is that you enjoy doing. But above all, I'd ask yourself, am I genuinely interested in the business world, or is it more helping people with their personal difficulties that appeals to me? Having then made that decision, students can go on to look at the firms that specialise within business or a private client field. If you're looking at the business side, I think it would be easier to find those firms. They're a lot higher profile. They promote themselves a lot more online and on university campuses. So it's a case of getting along to events, going to law fairs, researching, and trying to feel about the culture of each of those firms to find one that you feel that might be appealing to you to work at, and then drawing up a short list of firms of that type that you'd be interested in applying for. If you're interested in the private client field, it will take a bit more research. There are some quite large firms in that area, but a lot of the firms might be smaller. So again, it's important to try and get some work experience, get along to events, meet people that work in that field, and try and draw up a short list of firms to prioritise. Thinking about numbers of firms to go for, if you're looking at the commercial side of things, I'd recommend probably applying for no more than 10 firms or so, and realistically there's about 10 well-known corporate commercial firms in Birmingham that offer a good number of training contracts. Outside of that, you'd probably need to apply for a larger number of firms that offer personal legal services, just because there tend to be a fewer number of training contract opportunities at those firms.
So my next question's on commercial awareness. Everyone knows what it is. It's also always, being used in the legal sector. How do students go about demonstrating that at an early stage, at sixth form, during their undergraduate studies?
It's a question I get asked all the time. Students are very conscious of the need to show commercial awareness, but often are very unclear about how they go about doing that. What I always say to students is that there's two different elements of commercial awareness. The first element is having commercial awareness about the legal sector and understanding all the different types of legal employers and the current issues and challenges in the legal market. And that will apply to every type of firm, from big corporate practices to a small legal aid practice, where you should have commercial awareness about changes to legal aid. Students can develop that through research online, looking every week at publications like Lawyer to Be or Legal Week itself, just keeping on top of what's happening within law. The second area of commercial awareness for those who want to be business lawyers is an understanding of the business world. And again, that can be quite difficult, but things you could consider are possibly choosing maybe a couple of business-focused options at university that will help you build up your awareness. On a number of LPC programs now, there's an opportunity to do commercially based options within the program, which are focused more on business studies than actually business law, and that can be very helpful.
So before we finish, we have to ask, what do you think of the solicitor's qualification exam, as it's a very current topic at the moment?
I think my honest answer is I'm still trying to decide what I think of the solicitor's qualification exam. At the moment, a lot of the information is quite unclear, so it's difficult to formulate a definite opinion. But I can see both advantages and disadvantages. I think on the one hand, it does help with bringing in consistency and ensuring that all solicitors are at a particular level. Having said that, I do have a concern about diversity aspects of the exam. One of the stated aims of the SRA with the solicitor's qualifying exam is that it should promote access to the legal profession to a wide range of suitable candidates, but from the initial information on costings, where the assessment alone might cost about £4,000, I'm struggling to see how it's going to achieve that objective of achieving greater diversity compared to the LPC. On the plus side though, I think one thing that is positive about the proposals might be the aspect of students being able to combine different periods of qualifying work experience as their training contract. The information on that is a bit vague, but I think it will open up opportunities in that sense for a more diverse range of candidates to enter the legal profession.
So we have to ask about Birmingham. Why do you think Birmingham's a good city in terms of university and a place to train at?
For me, what I like is the fact it's a really big city with lots of opportunities, but it's not too big. There's a really strong academic and legal community. You soon get to know people. There's plenty you can get involved with as well. Things I'd pick out for junior lawyers specifically are organisations like Birmingham Trainee Solicitor Society, who organise all sorts of events, and having that network in place where you can meet with like-minded individuals in similar roles at other firms is I think one of the things that's great about Birmingham, that there's lots going on, but still that sense of community that you can get involved with, and it makes it a really enjoyable experience to work in.
So where do you see the Birmingham legal market in 10 years' time?
Yeah, it's a very good question about where I see the Birmingham legal market going. I think there's obviously quite a lot of uncertainty with Brexit and so on about the legal sector, but we have fantastic firms here in Birmingham that I'm sure will go from strength to strength and adapt to whatever the changes are. Thinking about particular changes on the horizon, obviously there's been a huge increase in law tech in recent years, and firms are having to embrace technology to provide services to clients in different ways, and I think we'll see lots of changes about how firms work in that respect. Also, internationalisation is a big trend that, specifically from the business perspective, business is very rarely just UK based, and whilst Brexit is going to have an impact of some sort, I think from the second city of Birmingham there's so many opportunities to get involved in international legal work now, which hopefully will just continue to increase.
So many students and young people in general, they make use of social media personally, so they've got a massive following on Instagram, on Twitter, etc. How do you think that they can utilise that platform that they have to further their career in law?
I think it's really important for prospective lawyers to make effective use of social media. It's a fantastic tool in two senses really. First of all, to have a look and find out what's going on, and then secondly to start to build up a network. Obviously there's various social media platforms, and students do need to be careful about how they use them and presenting a professional image, but the platform I always recommend to students is LinkedIn. I know a number of students over the last couple of years who've used it very effectively to build a network, put out positive messages about the things that they're doing and their achievements, which have led to them then going on to secure training contracts through connections that they've made. So I would really encourage any aspiring lawyer to be on LinkedIn. All trainee solicitors and lawyers are on there somewhere, so get on there, look at what other people are doing, start to build a network, and then start to like, comment and subscribe to Legally Brum, make posts of your own to show what it is you can offer a legal employer, and I think you'll find that really worthwhile.
Thank you so much, Paul, for coming and talking to us and providing all your top tips for everyone watching at Legally Brum. It's been a pleasure having you on our show today.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure to be involved, and I'd like to wish everyone good luck for the future. My three top tips are firstly to keep positive and committed. It is going to be competitive and challenging to get a training contract and succeed in the legal profession, and it can sometimes feel demoralising when you get the rejections, but keep going, and if you're committed you'll get there in the end. My second tip is to focus on academics. It's very important that when trying to enter the legal profession you have the best grades that you can possibly achieve, both at A-level and on your degree, and the route will be smoother the higher the grades you have, so keep focused and get the highest possible marks. My final tip is to get involved. What I hear all the time from legal employers is that a lot of students look quite similar. They've all got their degree and maybe a few other similar achievements, but it's about having more than that that shows the transferable skills you need to succeed in the legal profession to make you a good solicitor. So don't just focus on academics, think about what else you can do that you would enjoy that would enable you to be as employable as possible.